Hello everyone, my name is Manuel at Manuel Martel Photography. For you who don't know me, I am a passionate outdoor photographer who specializes in landscape, wildlife, and lifestyle photography. I will be spending the next 2 weeks in Thailand, and I will be shooting as many photos as I can to build a nice image bank for my photography course that I'll be doing about pictorial. So my goal here is to bring you and show you a little bit how I think, how I work, how I set up the gear that I use for, again, lifestyle, wildlife, and landscape photography. I'll be spending times around Bangkok and Chiang Mai. I am shooting in September, so it's the rain season and the typhoon season, so I will be avoiding the islands down south, and I will concentrate in these two areas I just mentioned. So without further ado, we're gonna go out and explore this beautiful country, and I'm hoping that you'll learn a few tips and tricks along the way. I took a walk this morning to the Binjakiti Park in the financial business in Bangkok. Now, I'm not too sure if I do pronounce the name properly. Sorry for my Thai friends. But this part is good for two reasons. First off, there's a lot to take pictures of in this park. There's birds, there's flowers, there's nice scenery in general, and there's a man-made lake facing big tall buildings, so I can presume with the right light, or if you come at night when everything is lit up, that would make great city shot as well. So I want to share one tip here, and it is how to properly expose your image when you shoot birds flying from one tree to the other in the shade versus in the sun. So the goal here is to always have a proper exposure of your image, and the way I do that personally is I use a meter. So the meter is that little bar that will tell you 0, +1, +2, 0, -1, -2. So what that does, that little bar, is basically it tells you how dark or how bright your shot is. And it worked with stop, meaning that the 0 is well exposed photo, the +1 means it's one stop too bright, and the -1 means one stop too dark. So you don't have to fully understand the stop chart and stuff like that to use it. All you gotta remember is you wanna bring that line somewhere close to the 0 mark. So when you shoot manual, it is crucial to understand how to move your either your shutter speed, your aperture, your ISO to bring that line back into your 0. So in this case, because it's very shady around here and there's lots of birds in the trees, what I do is I play with my ISO primarily. So I shoot with my 100 to 400 on my Canon mount, and by doing so, I want to keep my shutter speed aligned with the focal range of my lens. And to do that, I bring my lens wide open, so my f-stop is very low number, and it's just wide opening into my lens to let more light coming in. But in most situation, it is actually too dark because it is a 5.6 f-stop when I'm zoomed in at 400 millimeters. So I need to get my ISO sometimes to 800, 1600, 3200. So whatever the case may be, I will need to bring my ISO a little higher. Unfortunately, we'll introduce some grain to my image and so forth, but you don't have a choice. Sometimes when it's too dark, it's too dark. So what I'm trying to do there is keep my shutter speed around 400th of a second, and then I use my meter to see if my ISO is good enough. So that'll bring me to around my 0 spot. Now, it's not an exact science. Sometimes you want to be a little brighter or a little darker. So I always do a test shot. If I know a bird's going to be in that area, then I'll go take the picture of that area, and then after that, I'll see if it's a good exposure or not. So here we go. So if you're not too sure, let's take a look here. I'll put my live view mode on and then I can show you a bit. If you were confused about what it is, I'll show you right now. So this is that little bar at the bottom here. This is what I mean by the meter. Okay, so hopefully this will help you in the future to have a well exposed photos. I'll be spending the day into the Khao Yai National Park in Thailand, and we're hoping to see whatever wildlife we can. So we'll take a few photos of birds more likely, if we're lucky some wild elephants. We're gonna have some nice lookouts and beautiful waterfall that we're gonna go to. So I'm hoping to give you guys a few tips on how to shoot in different occasions today. So hopefully we like this setup because it looks so beautiful so far. So there's a few gibbons in the trees, and this is a very low light situation. So a tip for you guys, get a very high ISO, very low f-stop number, wide aperture, and then really you're gonna concentrate on your shutter speed. I am shooting 100 to 400, and I'm extended at 400. So the rule of thumb is, my shutter speed should be 1/400th of a second at the slowest. So go faster if you need to, 1/1000th of a second, but don't go any slower. So 1/200th of a second will be a little slower. So if you shoot at 200 millimeters, then you could go down to 1/200th of a second, and then you can shoot faster but not slower than the maximum millimeter you're shooting at. So that's a tip for you guys. So I'm gonna go back and try and get some shot of the gibbons. We just witnessed a family of elephant slowly moving into the bushes, and now they're coming out again. It was a fantastic show. So those are wild elephant, and you don't see them too often in Thailand. So it's a real treat. I was able to shoot a bunch of pictures with my 100 to 400. So what I was trying to do there is capture a bit of the grass in front of the in the foreground. I have that blurred out and I have the elephant in focus. So the key in there is I have a very wide aperture, so a low f-stop number. When you do that and you get the right height to have that grass in front of your subject, and your subject is far away, so all the grass is going to be from your camera to your subject will be blurry, so they create a very nice texture in the foreground. Okay, super happy. We just saw some monkeys, some elephants on the road while we're coming to this waterfall.
Now, we got some pretty good picture. I couldn't film too much, so there's not much in terms of tips I could have give you else than just take your time taking those photos and just savor the moment. Now, there's this nice waterfall behind me, a lot of flow, so a lot of mist as well. So tip number one for you guys, keep your cap on to your lens until it's time to shoot. Do some test shots, look a little bit for your composition, but try to keep your lens cap on as long as you can. So right now I have a wide angle on my camera as well as a polarized filter. I am shooting with 11 to 16 millimeters, and I will be shooting that little water coming down here around the rocks. I really like the small little trees as well as the waterfall with the high flow. So the whole goal is to catch the movement in this water flow. I don't want it too milky, but I still want nice streak coming out on the waterfall. To do that, I will need to focus on my shutter speed. So I want around 1 second exposure. That's how slow I want my shutter speed to be. If I go 10-second exposure, things get way too milky. So for me, around 1 second is a good water movement. ISO 100 and my aperture, this is what I will use to set my exposure, to make sure my exposure is good. I have my histogram on to make sure that my image is not too dark. I will work with one single image in pictorial. I'm not blending images right now. So the image I'll be shooting will be dark. Make sure that your histogram is, your exposure is good properly in your histogram. So make sure nothing peaks too much in the dark area of the histogram, or nothing peaks too much on the bright side. So I already did my test shot. I really like this specific areas. I know my histogram is good, so I know all information is within the histogram, because we'll have to go and extract the shadows and bring life in certain areas in there. So what I'm going to do here, I pre-rotated my polarized filter. Everything is good. I'm just going to keep this cap off. 2 seconds delay because I don't have a shutter trigger here. What I normally do is I'll use my view modes to give me my composition and my live view to make sure that my exposure is good and proper. So if I look there, I have a very good water movement here. The actual trees and the water is properly exposed. A little dark, like I said, in the foreground here, but we'll have to shoot raw in order to use pictorial to bring more details in these areas. So just to resume, make sure that your histogram is on and everything is showing properly. Use a 2-second timer delay so your tripod and there's no camera shake whenever you press on your shutter. Use your live view mode. Make sure that everything is sharp and crisp. And then choose a good shutter speed for you to make sure that you have the water flow you're looking for. So that's it. That's my little trick for waterfall photography.
Today, I'm in Chiang Mai, in the old part of the city, and I'll be looking at temples. There's lots of them. They are beautiful to look at. So I'll be traveling light. I'll have 3 lenses with me with my 7D. I'll be carrying my wide angle 11 to 16 f2.8, and that will allow me to have a very wide view to capture the whole temple. Then I'll carry the 70 to 200 f4 and the 50mm f1.8, and these 2 lenses will allow me to have some very interesting close-up images. So the weather today is going to be cloudy, overcast, maybe a little drizzle, maybe a little rain. Right now we have a little sun, so there's look like it's going to be a mix of a little bit of everything. But in any case, once we get to the temple, I'll be explaining a little bit more how to deal with those heavy clouds or the sun. So without further ado, let's just get out and explore the city. Now we'll take tons of pictures today, And the first thing that you'll notice is this is very overcast. So what I'll be doing here is taking a picture of the temple with my wide angle. I'll be using 11 to 16 millimeters. And I'll make sure that the sky is exposed properly as well as the building. So when I shoot, my building will be a little darker than I really want. It won't look as great straight out of the camera. But the key there is, if you look in your histogram again, just make sure all the information is inside the histogram, so there's no big mountain peaking on one side or the other. So then what we'll do in pictorial later is we'll give a little bit more dramatic feel to the sky, and then we'll bring a little bit more details in the shadows and a darker spot into the buildings. And then we'll add a little bit of color and saturation to make things look very pretty. So it's going to be dramatic with that sky. So without further ado, we're going to walk around and find a good place to take photos, and it's just beautiful. Every temple here are just beautiful and so picturesque. So we'll go around, take a bunch of pictures. I was able to shoot a lot of great photos with a very dark sky. So what I've done is I underexposed my image from about 1 stop. So with my meter, I went to -1. And in general, I was shooting ISO 400 around f8, and then my shutter speed was variable a little bit. But the blue sky just came out, the clouds just opened up a little bit, and some sun came through, which was fantastic in terms of having a very dynamic light, because I had some sun hitting the Golden Temple and everything, and it works perfectly. So keep that in mind. If you do underexpose from about maybe 1 stop when you have a very dark sky, your building look a little darker, but later on you'll be able to retrieve a lot of the shadows, as long as if it's not too dark. So with your histogram, just make sure, have a quick peek, then make sure it's not peaking in the dark side too much. So here we go, we're done with this location. We'll move on. There's several other temples I want to visit today, so we're just gonna keep walking. It's Sunday, so the market is getting set up. They're gonna close the street and have a little bit more things to buy, things to eat, things to photograph. So let's go have a look. Okay, I am at a Chiang Mai Saturday market right now, and there's tons of things to buy around. There's good food, there's good clothes, there's tons of handcrafted stuff, and it's huge. There's a few blocks. It's very vibrant, lots of people. It is a little dark right now because it's overcast in the sky. It's a little bit drizzling and raining. There's a lot of lights and neon lights around, so it'll probably make pictures doable next to the stands, but otherwise it's very dark. So I'm gonna walk around with my 50mm f1.8, sorry, and then from there we'll just take a few pictures of food, and we're gonna try a lot of food as well. So let's just go and have a look. I took a trip to Chiang Rai to visit the Blue Temple, the Black House, and the White Temple. So the Blue Temple behind me is a fairly recent temple made by a sweet architect. It did a fantastic job. There's so much to look at all over the place. We have a little bit of drizzle and rain right now, so you'll be dealing with a bit of overcast sky again today. So we won't take too much time on the outside at the moment. We'll do as quick as we can before we get rained on, but hopefully the weather hold on and we have some good shot later on. we're looking at the back end of the Black House, which used to belong to a great artist in the region of Chiang Rai. He passed away, I believe it's 3 years ago, but now his house, or one of his houses I should say, because he had several, is open to the public, which it is fantastic. There's wood carving on every door, there's like details everywhere. Now if I can give you a tip, when you shoot with a wide angle, you can shoot the whole building as a whole, but as well it's very interesting if you come close by and shoot like this photo right now. I can take part of the door and I have a nice close-up on this part and I have something nice in the background. So there's a structure behind me. Earlier on I was just shooting part of the nicely carved door and I have the actual building in the back. So just don't be afraid to go and explore your wide angle if you can. Right, mine is 11/16, so I'll be playing between that range, and it is just fantastic what you can achieve in terms of having something blur in the background and a very close-up, nice carving on the door. I'm standing in front of the White Temple. It is absolutely stunning and very lucky right now. The sky just opened up. We have that beautiful dark blue sky against the White Temple, so it's fantastic contrast. So on this one I'm going to use my polarized filter. Every time you have a blue sky like this and you're shooting something which is white especially, you'll have a little bit more contrast with the polarized filter, but any blue skies, sunny skies, I highly suggest you use a polarized filter. So I'll go ISO 100. I'll shoot around f5.6, something like that, and my shutter speed is going to be around f1/320th of a second or somewhere in that range. So at that point I'll be shooting from different angles, so the sun will change. So just keep in mind when you use a polarized filter is you want to rotate your filter every angle you have. Also what's quite neat is there's a few fish in the pond right now, so if I do change my polarized filter and rotate it, I may be able to see the fish versus having the reflection of the temple. So you can have two different scene in front of the temple. All right, so we'll go around and take a few shots. I'm at the Elephant Nature Park near Chiang Mai. I'll be spending 2 days here, and this is the end of day 1. So this park is great in a way where they will take some elephants that were either in the logging industry, the tourism industry, injured, sick, name it. They'll bring them here and they'll bring them back to life. Huge part of their budget goes into medicine and helping the elephant to get better. After that, they'll be roaming into the park here, which is a very nice setup. There's a river going through, and if they want to be near humans, then they can. And otherwise, they'll be roaming and do their own thing. So I took a lot of pictures today, and that was one of those situations where we had a very bright sun. Right after lunch, the sun was coming straight down at us. So that make any type of wildlife photography or portrait photography in the outdoor harder, because we have a very harsh light. So some part will be very bright on your subject and some of the part will be very dark. So that's kind of a tough one to shoot. Now, if it's cloudy, that's better because the clouds will act as a big diffuser. So then you don't have that much of a difference between the highlights and the shadows. Now, just keep in mind, if you do have accessories like a diffuser or a reflector or a flash, then you can deal with those harsh light situations better. But if you're shooting in a natural habitat and you don't have any accessories with you, you're really going to make do with what you have at hand. Now, a tip for you is if you can plan your shoot and be there during the golden hours. So if you're there 1 or 2 hours after the sun rises and 1 or 2 hours before the sun set, then you get this direct light. It's very rich, it's very nice, and this is a very good time to shoot any type of photography. So a little bit of planning will go a long way. Otherwise, you gotta work around those harsh shadows in post-production or bring accessories with you. So hopefully you'll enjoy all the nice footage that I have taken today of the elephants swimming and having fun, and there will be some more tomorrow. So my last stop of my 2-week trips in Thailand will be Doi Inthanon National Park. So there's a lot going on in this park, a lot of waterfalls, beautiful hikes. It's also the highest peak in Thailand, so it's a little overcast right now, but I'm hoping whenever we drive all the way on top, we'll be able to see a little bit of the actual nice scenery. So what we have right now is we do have what they call the Royal Project, what you're looking at. And what happened is they had like farmers and villages that were growing opium and poppies and so forth. So the king decided to subsidize and give money to change their crops to something a little bit more useful. So there's a lot of coffee plantations around and different crops. So this is what we're looking at right now. So I'm going to go and take a few pictures with the 7200 in the valley. It's very neat to see all the agriculture is going on here. There's also tons of flowers, so I'm going to use the 7200 as well to take a few close-ups of flowers. So we'll go and have a walk around. So I'm standing just in front of the King and the Queen pagodas on top of the Doi Inthanon National Park. So the Queen, the pagodas is the first one we're looking at right now. Is the purple one, and the brown is actually the King pagodas. So they are beautiful monuments, and right now we have a bit of mist and we're in the clouds and a little bit of rain as well, but it's very light, and we have all those nice flowers in front of it. So what I'm going to do here is I set up my camera on the tripod, and I want to get a little bit of those flowers as well. So I'm going to have a little bit of a higher f-stop, so I'm going to go maybe have f10, f11, ISO 100, and I'm gonna have my shutter speed a little slower, just because there's no movement around, the trees are stagnant and stuff like that. I wanna have the flower and the actual pagodas in focus as well, and that's going to create a very nice photo. I'm going to make sure I may be underexposing the photo a little bit again because of the clouds. I don't want them to be too bright, so I will be able to extract a little bit of details in the shadows and the highlights, and later on in post-production in pictorial. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to take a look here. I'm going to take my cap off. We're going to go on manual mode. What I like to do is leave my live view mode when I do shots like this, and then I'm on manual mode here. I'm gonna go f10, ISO 100 to have the best quality, and then my shutter speed right now to have a good exposure will be around actually 1/40th of a second. So I'm gonna put this into a 2-second delay, and I will take my shot, and we'll take a look, see if the sky may be a little too bright in this case. So I'm gonna go a little slower again, live view mode, and I'm gonna go maybe a little faster, sorry, and darken the sky a little bit, maybe 200th of a second. Now this photo is very, very dark at the moment, and I can't see much of the foreground, but this is the problem we have. We need a contrast. So if we're to blend those two images together, will be best, because we have that sky is very dark, so the setting is good, but the foreground is very dark. So I need to find the in-between. So I'm gonna go 60th of a second, and it's still overexposed in the sky. So I'm gonna keep going 100th of a second and do a little test shot that way until you find the happy medium. And then we're getting there here. And I think 1/25th of a second will be the fastest shutter speed I can use, so it's not too dark. So my camera, the live view mode, flashes when the highlights are too bright. If you can set that up on your camera, it's fantastic.